Hello gamers! Aaron Shack here with KongofBeast and LadiiGi. We're going to do a little talk today about game reviews, what's good about them, what's bad about them, how would we try to improve the process of video game reviews. So let's start with some introductions. KongofBeast and then LadiiGi, if you want to introduce yourselves to our audience here.
Ladies first.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, ladies first. LadiiGi.
LadiiGi. Hello. As far as like a intro, I mean, I'm here.
Of course.
I don't know what the fuck to say. Like,
You have an award-winning podcast that's been covering multiple episodes of Atlanta and tech and gaming and pop culture.
so I mean, are we doing like podcast intro or self intro? Or just general content?
Yeah, just
stuff?
anything. Yeah, whatever you do.
All right. Well, I'm LadiiGi. I am a multifaceted human being. We have featured Aaron on a podcast called Verbal Vibe Mode. You may have heard of it because his listeners did pop over to show out for his episodes, many of them, and we're finally here to actually return the favor. After all of the talks we have had, like, we should have recorded them, but oops.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're here. Appreciate you having us today, honestly, because it's kind of been a long time coming, to be honest.
It has.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've done it. Kong, tell us a little bit about what's going on with you and your projects.
Can I do the Hello Gamers thing?
Yeah,
Hello
absolutely.
Gamers.
Oh my god. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know, I started saying it and then other people started making fun of me for saying it, so I started saying it, and now everyone has, their own impersonation of the Hello Gamers.
I think it's the greatest opening.
I'm never gonna change it then. Okay.
It's so good. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, it instantly became a classic. Now you can't watch stream without it. So I love it. I'm KongofBeast. Do a little podcast, Verbal Vibe Mode with LadiiGi. It's an honor to be here with Aaron Shack finally. Finally going to be on this great show. Like G said, had a whole bunch of conversations with him, both on and off the podcast. Yeah, it's just cool being able to be here and represent.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a lot of chats, a lot of different episodes about different themes of pop culture and gaming and live streaming, and we've talked about a lot of interesting and really deep issues. So if you're a fan of this type of content, definitely check out the Verbal Vibe Mode podcast, and I'll have links in the description as well so you can find all that. Okay, so let's get into it. Game reviews, and just start wherever you wish. If you want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, or maybe you have your own protocol of what you would do if you were reviewing a game, or what you would like to see others do, or how you enjoy reviews being presented to you.
I feel like when it comes to game reviews, there's like a number of factors. Of course, when it comes to... Yikes, let me turn that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a number of factors to consider, or that should be considered when you're coming up with a review of any kind, not just specific to game reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's metrics tend to be different, and the delivery now, I feel like it's more rapid than it is in the past, of course, where we had to wait for magazines to drop, and it was largely based on word of mouth.
Very
But
true.
kind of due to that slow bake process, I trusted reviews more back then and actually considered them when I was going to make a purchase or check something out. I feel like today, how everything's so microwaved and the pace is rapid and ever changing, which is, in some instances it's great, some instances it's kind of like some industries really need to take a break. but reviews are a lot more accessible. But that also comes with the guys that we're not without inherent bias.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the current state of them, it can be anything from the oversaturation of the content. We see ads on TV, streaming platforms, social media. Everything's plastered everywhere, which is, it's fine. The familiarity of gaming, okay, making it more, for the people, that's okay. But I feel like a lot of the money sometimes goes to that part of it, which is marketing and the public relations part. And sometimes the game itself suffers. So they'll put a lot into that, but they won't really refine the game how it should be.
Okay.
Yeah. She literally hit the nail on the head. Especially when, like, talking about old school magazines and so, it felt like with magazines, we had magazines for literally everything, every system, almost every video game,
Yeah.
every form you could think about, we had a magazine for. So nobody was held down to just, oh, let's pay these people a bunch of money to put our video game in there. It was really just okay, we got to put this out there, and whatever they say, they say. Let them read it. Shoot, you couldn't even find it online. Like let them read it in the magazine, and I mean, we taking it from there. But again, like G said, nowadays is I don't. I feel like it's just money based and the heavy marketing and the
Mm-hmm.
oversaturation of everything. You kind of lose. You lose that genuine review. It's like even if Horizon Zero or Horizon Forbidden West was a bad game,
Mm-hmm.
the so much marketing pushed into it. So many people on YouTube, online, whatever, are getting paid to announce this game, to review this game, to say this, that, and the other about the game. It's kind of like I don't even know who to trust anymore.
Okay.
You kind of just don't want it.
So kind of an oversaturation of the review market has made it more difficult to trust sources.
Yeah,
That's something
yeah,
I honestly hadn't considered until now, and that's kind of a brilliant point. And it goes back to what Lady G said about how magazines were believed to be a more credible source because we didn't have the internet. It was people had to play through the whole game, so they were obviously getting an advanced release copy and were given
Mm-hmm.
enough time to actually play through the whole thing. Whereas now, they're getting an alpha or beta copy, or maybe they're getting the game like a week before release. And a lot of times these reviewers are even admitting like, oh, hey, I never beat the game, or like, I only did like a couple hours and I think the game sucks. Like, like it just doesn't feel genuine if they didn't even go through the whole thing. I don't think you would
Yeah.
expect that from like a book or a movie review. If someone only watched 10 minutes of Spider-Man No Way Home and they were like, yeah, I think it sucked. Honestly, it started off really slow. Like, it just, you need to watch the whole 2.5 hour movie to have thoughts about it and to portray those thoughts. Even if you're trying not to spoil the movie, you just will have overall thoughts about the whole thing. And it's harder when games are like 80-hour Assassin's Creed grind
Yeah.
fest with like 900 towers to climb to unlock the map, and you got to hunt a bunch of boars so you can craft a bigger wallet. All these different
Yeah.
things.
Having like the complete experience for a game that is more difficult than say a movie or a book, that is pretty tough because even if you are to play the amount of hours that a game is,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to experience the entire game. Everybody's experience is different. So I feel like even with reviewers now, I'm not specifically going to them to see if I should buy the game, but just
Mm.
seeing it through their experience and how they, either compared it to other games and actual examples in the games that they provide and not just glossing over just like the basic tech specs and not really getting into the gameplay
Mm-hmm.
and like important factors like that. I feel like if you're going to make that type of content, that's what you need to include in it. Bare minimum. You kind of have to share your experience and not just give like a basic rating with no substance.
Mm. And it feel like, hold on, I apologize. It feels like today, two things. One, a lot of developers are terrified of what people are gonna say about their game, so they don't, like y'all said, they give out betas. They don't do the whole video game. And then on top of that, we have really, really lost just regular playthrough games. I mean, back when we was younger, yeah, we had stuff like WoW and uh a couple of other RPGs that you was, I mean, WoW is the biggest one, but we had other stuff that you was a little grindy. But we had a lot of single player actual story based games. Nowadays you lose so much of that, it's, I mean, what's the point? Like what's the what's the point of reviewing anything anymore? You, like G said, you're not getting the same experience as anybody else. Because what you play through, or the 40 hours that you may put in, somebody might put in 50, 90 plus and find something totally different.
Very true.
So it's, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to review a game now.
It's even harder. Okay. And with Elden Ring, it's like you see, I have 5 different characters. I've almost put in 300 hours between these 5 characters. Each
You're a
playthrough is
madman.
very different. Even though I might be fighting the same bosses, hitting some of the same story beats, on some characters you just get completely different encounters, or because I killed somebody that I shouldn't have, or I defeated a boss earlier, it shifts the whole perspective of the game, and all of a sudden I've invested 90 hours going, northeast, whereas somebody else could invest 90 hours going southeast and get like a completely different experience of the game. They could hate it because they went into some end game area that had high level enemies and they were like, oh, it's too hard. But because of the direction I went, I was like, oh, it seemed like a logical progression of difficulty.
That open world curse, man.
Yeah, the open world curse.
that everybody wants to be an open world game now. I don't know, man. It just makes a lot of things difficult. It makes it so much harder to trust any reviews.
This is true.
Today, in all honesty, everybody might as well, if you seem somewhat interested in the game, either A, look at somebody else, watch their gameplay, somewhat intently, or B, just try it for yourself.
Yeah.
Just a lot of video games now are just you experimenting. So.
And games are more accessible price-wise now than they've probably ever been.
If you're on PC, sure.
Yeah, especially on
so
PC.
Console.
Yeah, console.
That's getting worse.
People are paying $70 for the same game that we can pay $30 for. It's kind of ridiculous.
You might get through it with Game Pass, where you just sort of rent. Or, I mean, you might just need friends to borrow copies of games from in the console land. It's difficult. But yeah, in PC land, it's obviously the sales are a lot bigger cuts, of like 90% off on something. Or if you just wait, PC gamers are often very patient. They will just wait for a really good sale. Even if it's a game they genuinely enjoy, they might just be like, well, is this an experience that's a $60 one? Or is this more of a 10 or 20 for me?
Yeah.
So I would almost take price, or is this a wait for a sale type game? Like, it can be a perfectly good game. It just might be one that's, personally to you, the value meets this number.
Yeah. And even when people ask me, like, hey, how's such and such game, that is something I lead with. Because I'll be like, or maybe they'll even just say it in general, hey, how's this game, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, just wait for a sale. Or even, I don't even remember the last time I actually paid full price for a game anyway on PC. But when it comes to like having to have it now. I feel like if you miss the drop or the first week, you might as well just wait for a sale because the price is going to go down.
Mm-hmm. See that a lot with, like the latest, any of the fall releases. Like, if you don't get Battlefield early, you get behind on the leveling up and the multiplayer and the skill gap, and you won't have all the good guns that everyone will have 3 months from now because they've been grinding harder than you. So it's like, you almost should wait for a sale. Or if the game launches broken, then you might wait for a sale as well with the whole live service angle. Yeah.
Kind of into those games, you're likely already pre-ordered it.
Absolutely.
You are a grinder type of person, I guess, because you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to get it on sale and I'm going to play 1,000 hours to catch up. No, likely already bought it.
Today, is any game worth? I mean, do y'all feel that any game is actually worth the full price?
I'll let someone else lead with that.
So clearly you think no. I mean, I respect developers, so yeah, I believe you should pay for games. Yeah. So, as far as their work, compared to what they should be getting paid, yeah, they're worth it. But Absolutely. It just depends on what game it is and the robustness of it, because all games being priced at $60, some games don't have $60 worth of content. Other games do. Mm-hmm. Other games have way more than that. So the price model, it's screwed, but it's unfortunately something you have to deal with when a lot of different companies control their pricing. Mm-hmm. More so a company like Nintendo or something.
Oh, yeah. Nintendo has been kind of hit or miss, depending on what the content is. If it's like a re-release or a remake, it's been a little sketchy sometimes, where they're just banking on nostalgia. But when they drop like a really hot Mario or Zelda game, and it actually comes out and it's like the dopest stuff we've seen in 5 years, then it's like okay, obviously.
When they actually focus on the content, they tend not to miss. That's the classicness of Nintendo. Mm-hmm. But the re-release nonsense.
Re-release for same price.
Oh, that's
the craziest part. Like, you re-release an old game for $60. Seriously? How? And people just eat it up.
I ate it up.
Eat it up.
Just the dummy I am, yeah. I really just bought that Mario All-Stars thing because I was like, I wanted Mario Sunshine in HD, and I thought it was going to be good. And no, they didn't change a damn thing. Like, the inverted controls were still there, and it wasn't HD enough. No, it really just looked like they just copied the disc and moved it over.
Packaged it. Oh boy.
Yeah, basically. Okay, so we've talked about the timing of reviews. We've talked about magazines' credibility. We talked about how money will sometimes affect reviews and the marketing push. We've talked about the oversaturation of the market, the fact that there's just a bazillion YouTubers and Twitch streamers, and I don't know how many publications there are. I feel like you think like IGN, Polygon, Kotaku, PC Gamer, there's like a handful maybe. Or maybe there's more, but
I would say there's more. Not industry standard ones like the IGNs, but you have a lot more access when it comes to like blogging and just general like digital reviewing too. So as far as like video reviews, podcast reviews, so it's larger, but the amount of trusted sources and industry standards,
So, are there any magazines that you feel like you trust even still today?
No.
Yeah. So it didn't pivot well. They didn't adapt to the changing world.
I mean, some did because they did go digital with their blog, so that's fine. But I mean, I'm not running out to get Game Informer at this age. Like, no. So it's not like the same type of I guess environment when it comes to that. Publications, yes, I do like them and everything, but
I used to get more excited about them. When they had the 10-page spread of like some really hot game, and you just wanted to know everything about that game, and it was the it was on the cover. They had 10 pages about it. It was a massive blurb. There were screenshots. You were like, yeah, and you just imagined everything about the game, and you got hyped for it. And then the reviews were also fairly lengthy. I feel like now, if I were to pick up Game Informer, it's there's like a 3-paragraph blurb on Elden Ring, and then they give you a score, and then that's it. And it's like,
so,
I don't feel like that's enough.
Would you blame the publication, or would you blame short attention spans?
Yes. But definitely leaning to the attention span of the fact that you can't have longer articles because people just wouldn't read it.
You cannot. Some people will be into that as far as publications go, but like the amount of reading that people want to do, whether online or in print, some people really are just willing to read. So you kind of have to make it as succinct as possible. So not only can people digest it, when they come across it, they're more likely to actually scroll to the bottom of your page.
Well, that's what happens, I think, is a lot of people scroll to the bottom where they say, in summary, here's all my thoughts, and then there's the bullet points, and then you see the number, yeah.
To be honest, I miss the magazine format.
Sure.
I really, really do. Especially when it came to review. Game Informer used to have like that whole list of games in the back of the magazine. And it was just different people who literally gave full in-depth reviews about different games, like if you should get it, what they actually thought about it. Like it was just really good. Now, like y'all said, short attention span, industry is trash. Push. We gotta literally get this stuff out here so people can listen or watch it and hurry up and move on to the next thing. Like, God, that's...
So if you don't have your review out by launch, or if it's not out in that hot time where everybody's deciding if they're actually going to buy the game. So leading to that, what do you think about reviews in progress when that happens? When they sort of say like, okay, this game is too massive, so we're going to do the single player review here, the multiplayer review here. I think they did that with like Halo, and there might be a couple other games. Maybe even Elden Ring might have gotten that treatment because it was very massive and there was just no way you could play the whole game before.
Yeah.
What do we think about reviews in progress?
I feel like I respect that. I mean, not only is it evergreen content for the publisher, it actually kind of encourages you to return to engage with that content again. I mean, with that large of a game and content in general, actually seeing that they have the dedication and drive to want to continue to update a review and not just throw something out there, okay, that's it, that's, whatever, I'm done with this. Or possibly doing an initial review and then doing one per DLC. I feel like it's a good idea, but I really would be interested to see like the data on that as far as consumer engagement of those types of works, to see if it really is successful or if the numbers are as high as like the initial publication date.
Interesting, yeah.
I honestly haven't seen something like that before, so that's a very interesting concept. And to all the people who have done it, that's super dope, because I think that would make it more worth it to return, but you're also letting me know about the game. It's not just, here's the beta, some of this stuff was broken. All right, there you go. Let's see. Okay, cool. So how do you feel about the rest? No. We just got this first part. All right, whatever, I guess. So for somebody to actually go in and just get like that step-by-step review, I think that's dope. I would love to see that.
Well, and especially with live service games, it's even harder to offer something objective immediately at launch when a DLC might be 3 months out, or the bug fix is like out within a month or two.
How would you know about that, Mr. Shack?
Oh, okay. Here, I'll hit you with this. Woo! Some game that built the channel here. So if here, let's case in point here. Let's say you give Marvel's Avengers, you give it a 6 out of 10 right out the gate, because it had, okay, we'll say a decent to mediocre story. You got some single-player and multiplayer content, but it looks like a lot of the end game's kind of unfinished. It looks like a lot of stuff is kind of missing. Looks like it's pretty buggy at launch. Maybe you've got characters clipping into walls to where you can't finish a mission because the character's stuck in a wall or something like that. So you have bugs like that, and you immediately say, okay, well, this is pure trash. But then you wait a couple months later, they've put out 2 characters, and then they're dropping War for Wakanda, and they're fixing a lot of the bugs, and they throw out Black Panther, one of the most popular heroes we've seen in the past 2 or 3 years, and they're finally bringing him to the game. How do you do that? Do you still say, no, our final score that we did at launch is good enough? Or do we bring it up to a 7 now? Or do we make a special note that says, okay, well, at launch it was this, but now it's this, and it could get better, but it's obviously just kind of stagnating here around a 6.5 or a 7 or something? So is there reason to have... I hate scores. I almost don't want to go with scores at all if I do reviews on the channel. But is it better to have a solid score at the beginning or adaptable scores over time? How are we objective about this?
You can only be so objective when it comes to reviews.
Yeah, no, you really can't, and there's almost bias, yeah.
Yeah, the consistency and then the bias that the person has within the review itself, that's kind of what makes them unique and stand out viewers and critics. So I feel like returning to a piece of content, whether it be a game, TV show, book, or anything else, it's not necessarily a bad idea, especially if it is something that is living. If it's a game that's, currently being updated, I'm gonna update my review when they drop a new DLC. That's not a bad idea. Because again, more content, that's more engagement for that post, or if you decide to make another post, new eyes. So I feel like that is a great idea in theory, but I don't know if people have time to do that and dedicate themselves beyond doing the initial review, 7 out of 10, and just calling it a day. Unless something major really drops for that game.
Yeah, which for Destiny, when something drops, it's usually pretty major, like the yearly dump of the new raid, new area, new massive story changes, new characters. It almost feels like, and I don't think they ever change the initial review score, but they might actually just say oh, here's the DLC and our rating for this specific edition, and then it takes into factor how the game has changed from launch. You could say, oh, well, they've added this UI feature, they've cut this and this and this, and they've fixed that, and now they've dropped this dope new content that's 10 out of 10 or something, and then they just say, well, now the game's a 9 instead of an 8.5 or something.
Yeah, if anything, that just makes your content more robust and adaptable, and kind of bump you up my list as far as trustworthiness and, should I actually go read this person's review, or should I just, consider it a one-off that I just, throw away once I read and say, okay, yeah, whatever, I'm not buying this game, or I'm not into this, or I'll just wait till the DLC comes out and see what they say. Because 9 times out of 10, that person isn't going to skip the chance to review the DLC or a piece of major content that is going to be released. It's just a matter of how they do it. Yeah. And I feel like the way that you did describe it, by coalescing what happened in the past versus what's going on now and leaving that original review up and kind of grade scaling it back in the grading system of elementary school. I know people remember that first quarter, second quarter, but I feel like that's pretty fair.
That's an objective way to show progression. I mean, I knock a lot of things about our school system, but the 6 weeks reports that you had, every 6 weeks, they would be
yep,
you got an F in math. What changed from week 1 to week 6? You get some solid grades.
Changed.
It's almost spring break.
Yeah. Spring break.
Yeah,
That's some really solid points, yeah. No, go ahead.
I don't exactly agree with like the whole number and graded system type thing because, like you said, especially with a live game, you never know. It can get better, it can get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So just giving it that solid, oh, this is a 9 or this is a 2, or it's kind of like, well, if you play through it again and you're the only person that likes it, are you gonna go back? Are you gonna go back, like delete your IGN post and then be like, I really meant, like,
I really meant this.
no,
No, I don't think you can delete. Not
yeah,
you wouldn't have any credibility if you did that, I
yeah,
feel.
exactly. Yeah, so I feel like that's I'm not really with it, especially it can refer to anything. Like there's a whole bunch of movies that people are like, oh, this sucked, but then you
Uh-huh.
go back and watch it again, it's a cult classic. Like that the whole numbering system, the whole solid, oh, this is this and that's it. It kind of really don't fly.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy faced that as a game. When it launched, they were like, okay, it doesn't have the MCU people, so this sucks. It's being made by someone that's under the Square Enix umbrella, which also kind of puts it under the Avengers thing. So they were like, oh, is this the same developer? Even though it was Eidos instead of Crystal Dynamics, who did Avengers. So a lot of people mistook that as well. And then they just might have looked at character designs and decided, or various other features and been like, or, oh, does this look like a live service game? This could push me away. But then as, they started winning awards for like best narrative, some of the actors got like best voice actor. We had the game come to Xbox Game Pass, and then all of a sudden people had the chance to play it without investing $60, at the forefront. People were like, oh, this game's actually kind of dope. Like, it reminds me of Mass Effect. You got your story, you got the dialogue options, you got multiple characters that you're managing your squad and flying around through space having adventures. And it's got dope music just like you expect from the movies. And it just kind of ends up getting this cult classic vibe. So I don't know what the review scores were initially, but I feel like that game, as soon as it hit Game Pass and people started to recognize it, there's way more chatter about it. And not every game has had that second life. Some games just die right when that review score hits.
Yeah.
And then you're done. You're toast.
Which is another thing that I guess returning to reviews may help as far as that goes. So if the initial review was just like, okay, this game is trash, and they decide to go back and update it for whatever reason, person may go back and be like, well, their score improved a little bit, but well, yeah, we'll give it a chance now that it is on sale. So it might be a contributing factor that may sway somebody's opinion.
So what about No Man's Sky, when they flat out basically lied to us about multiplayer, about co-op, about like a lot of features, a lot of things were cut. It came out, and then like 3 or 4 years later, it's a totally different game. It's every promise they had made has pretty much been fulfilled by now. To some people, it might be too little, too late, but I think a lot of reviewers came in and updated.
Yeah.
Came out with additional articles and said, like, holy crap, look at the way the developers have turned this around.
Yeah, and I feel like that responsibility initially lies on the developers. Can't really fault the reviewer for, like, being delivered an incomplete game and experience because they didn't really get what they were promised, obviously. So even having, like, the initiative to go back and review it after you were promised it, kind of like, a Cyberpunk is another example.
Yeah, I feel like Cyberpunk almost needs a separate review now because they really turned that horse around, and there's still work to be done, as I've heard.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And new DLC on the way, and I don't know if that multiplayer mode is still in the works. I don't know.
I doubt it, but I don't know.
If things had gone better, yeah, maybe they could have already been working on it, because they were planning to release it like by this year and next year, and there's just no way.
True.
And that was probably pre-pandemic as well that they were probably thinking that.
Yeah. But if you can turn it around in a major way like that, I feel like, I don't want to say everybody deserves another chance for somebody to do another full, thorough review on them, but
yeah, not
if
everybody.
it turns out to be something that can be enjoyable for people, and 9 times out of 10, at that point, it is on sale, do it.
See, those are examples of times where you can right the ship and actually benefit from it. Whereas Anthem never got that chance. They came out, they didn't have the end game, they didn't listen to players, player base abandoned them. Initial reviews were not great, even though it was a beautiful looking game. You just can't hide behind the flaws, the statistical stuff behind the gear, and the fact that there was no reason to continue after the main story. You can't have a looter shooter that doesn't give you reasons to come back after the main story's over. We've learned that with Destiny, Division, etc.
When they said that they were going to do an overhaul, I was mad excited. I was like, okay,
yeah,
let me go ahead and get ready for the game, because I'm like, okay, now we get to see what they're actually going to do. And of course, EA being EA was like, psych!
Yeah, they psyched us on that.
Yeah. That kind of broke my heart, because I did want to get into the game after they revamped it, but man.
And BioWare had a great track record up to that point. They had Mass Effect, they had Dragon Age, they've come up with these incredible narrative adventures, and they were basically saying, like, hey, now we're going to let you call your friends in, and you fly around in these big mechs, and that's one thing. The mechs actually controlled well, the gunplay was fun, flying around was fun. It was like playing as Iron Man. It was so interesting, but, if you don't have any substance beyond that, it makes it very difficult. And then we kind of learned that the open world was just kind of an empty shell. It looked beautiful, and what they promised was that you'd be able to dive into the river and go deep into underwater caves and stuff, and it was like none of that was really true. I mean, obviously they overpromised, and visually, they just couldn't meet some of the incredible stuff that they showcased at launch. I guess that's another thing is Watch Dogs had that vertical slice at E3 where it just looked gorgeous beyond anything we've ever seen, and then they were just basically like, wow, we can't deliver this.
Legion!
Yeah, Legion. Oh
yeah, you gotta
God.
be specific to let people know which Watch Dogs failed, please.
Well, the first one was really, really rough, but yeah, Legion was also.
2 was my favorite.
Yeah. Okay, here's...
wait, I was about to ask something.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, in the instance of when a game doesn't deliver, do you feel like companies should... How should I put this? Do you feel like the companies owe loyalty to those people who pre-ordered and ordered the game on schedule?
Ooh. Okay.
And experienced the failure?
Ooh. Okay, so this is if... Let's keep with No Man's Sky, because I feel like it's very popular. Yeah. So let's say do the original adopters of No Man's Sky that bought in at launch, do they deserve a refund?
The deluxe edition. They were ready to play.
Yeah. They invested to the max. Do they deserve a refund or a bonus in-game item or their own ship? Just give them some badass ship that they can...
Some sort of incentive, anything. I don't want to be specific as far as what the incentive is, but just a give back to those people.
This almost sounds like reparations.
Damn right. You gotta pay what you owe, so... when it comes to gaming, you kind of do lose out on those factors.
What was it that Ubisoft did a while back? They had something go real disastrous, and then they were like, we'll give you a copy of Far Cry 3, and you had an option of 2 or 3 games that they were like, you can buy any game of this set here, and it was fairly recent Ubisoft games, timeless classics. They were like, we're sorry we bungled this, and because of that, here you go. And I think it was a pre-order instance. It was a very rare one-time thing.
I can't remember.
Um, I mean, I would support that even
beta,
if
but
it
that
was.
was free, so that doesn't count.
I
Yeah.
keep thinking of that Deus Ex thing where they had them stupid tears, but I know that's not Ubisoft.
Yeah,
Dang.
I wish it was so long ago, honestly. I wish I could remember the exact problem that it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember that they offered that as sort of a way to make up for it. I think so. I think if you've invested and you've hung around through the worst of the worst, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it becomes a slippery slope, because at some point, how big does the failure have to be, and which studios are going to play by that rule? Not every studio.
Yeah.
Like, you think EA is going to play by the rules as
Absolutely
trashy as they've been? Honestly, let's look at the new Battlefield 2042. I mean, it's been a total disaster, LadiiGi. Complete disaster.
Completely.
And
They
like,
don't
I would
care
be
at all.
so mad. Even if I put $30 into that game, I would be so mad right now, because it looks like a complete nightmare what has happened with that game. And I was actually really hyped for it. I saw what they were doing, like the massive maps and kind of this story that they were telling through multiplayer of the world being overpopulated. There's been this massive World War III or whatever, and
The dynamic environment, all the promises that were not delivered.
yes.
No, man, didn't y'all always want to fly a hoverboat on the side of a skyscraper? This is exactly what everybody wanted to do.
That-
Like, go ahead, hop in a hoverboat, put it on a skyscraper.
And they took out the scoreboard too. They did that. They were like, well, we don't want players to think that they're bad. Don't worry, I'm bad. And I don't mind seeing that I got
You're
20
playing a game.
assists
This
and
isn't
2
like-
kills and 12
Uh-huh.
deaths. Is like, come on.
Oof, that's a whole nother topic.
So yeah, I'm all for studios or publishers, maybe in some case, offering some sort of reparation for failure to launch. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Or even just making up for it. Even if it's like Avengers had a tough launch, and I wouldn't be mad if they were like, hey, we're going to give you like 5 of the MCU skins for free because you've been here since launch, you played through the roughest times, you've supported the game, even supporting the game monetarily through that time, where they were just like not even... There have been times where there's just no content being added, and they're just like, hey, you want to buy a new skin? And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's smart to support a game that's not supporting you, if that's a way to say it. If they're not providing more of what you want, like, why am I going to buy a new Iron Man skin so I can look cute in the game that I'm not playing, that there's no additional content for? Who's gonna see me flying around in my new little suit if everyone's abandoning the game? Yeah, just me and all the viewers. But another game, Babylon's Fall. Do you know about this one?
No.
Square Enix published. Platinum Games developed. This was an action role-playing game. It, visually you could put it maybe in the Souls franchise, but it's definitely kind of hack and slashy kind of fighting. And I guess at the last moment, at some point, Square Enix was like, okay, you're gonna make this a live service game now. Like they were just like, yeah, you're gonna do it. And do you think Platinum Games, like Crystal Dynamics, do you think Platinum Games has any experience with live service games up to this point?
Yikes.
Yeah. So, disastrous launch. There's literally less than 100 people playing it on Steam right now. Less than 100 people, and it came out in February.
That's wow.
Even Avengers has maybe 3 times that. which the PC player base is really low because the game was poorly optimized. There's just not a lot of support there. I think the game is much more support on PlayStation and possibly Xbox.
Sure.
It's definitely more of a console game, yeah.
Yeah.
PC gamers have so many options and other things to do with their time, their money. They can also spend less money on stuff when they take advantage of sales. But yeah, Babylon's Fall is a quite an example of a fall. And Platinum is great. They make games like, Bayonetta, and they've done some Transformers and Ninja Turtles games in the past. I mean, they did Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, where you play as Raiden, the little hack and slash game there. So, I mean, they are known for good combat, good quality, but mostly linear games. So, trying to throw in the whole live service aspect just so you can make consistent money, because that's what everyone else is doing, that's not a good idea. We've seen it with Avengers. It's obviously not working well. Avengers could have been better as a story-based game without gear, without grinding for gear and perks and rarity of this and that and the other. You could have had multiple skill trees, and if you want to add new characters, you want to add new skill trees later on down the line, or give characters new weapons or new storylines or new missions. You can do that without being a live service game per se.
Then
without being a looter shooter, I guess.
Yeah. The question kind of becomes, what do you think the reason behind that is? I mean, is it because it's too expensive? But then, is it too expensive to make new games or make new IP? Or do you just want the consistent money? Or do you not have any ideas for any type of new game? Like, I mean, there's so many things that game developers can do that just doesn't hinder them to just making live service games. But then everybody and their mama want to make a live service game. So then, like, either where does it stop, or what's the point of it? Why keep doing it? And I know a lot of it is money, but then if it isn't good, you're not making a single dime from it. What's the point?
Yeah, why are you still supporting it if it's not making money? And why would consumers even bother to continue supporting the game? I mean, here's what we have with Division 2. It came out fairly strong launch, came out with additional content. They added the New York DLC. That was dope. Everyone was on board, kind of came flooding back for a while. But then for literally like maybe a year or two since then, they've done nothing. They've had seasons in the game, which is meaningless to me, but basically a season pass where you just like hunt down targets to get new weapons and armor and gear. And it's like, okay, well, the diehards are going to do that because they want to do it so they can get in the dark zone and wreck fools. But there's no reason for me to come back. And now they're saying, hey, they just dropped an announcement recently that they're like, hey, we have new content on the way. We're going to start supporting this game. We want to have stuff launching on a regular basis. And I was like, this is what I wanted you to do at launch. If it's a live service game, you have to do that, man. You can't.
Like, suit for you.
You can't take 2 years off and then come back. But I mean, maybe they can. Maybe it is a redemption arc, and maybe they're realizing there's long-term potential there, because The Division's a great franchise. It's
a solid franchise. I was about to say that's probably one of the franchises that they can buy. But for me, replayability with the Division series, it's like once I'm done with the story, I'm not really gonna go back and play it again unless somebody else wants me to like grind through those levels again, just to either show them where stuff is or just just to play it with them again.
Absolutely.
If they release new content, new enemies and stuff like that, of course I'm going to go back and play it, but it's not something that I'm going to, like, spend a lot of my time on unless they bring that new content.
Absolutely. Well, I guess when we talk about live service games, some examples are that they're motivated by money. Sometimes it's just might be even easier to just make a game and tack on DLCs to it over time and bug fix over time, rather than having to immediately start working on a sequel for the next 5 years of your life, in terms of development time, development costs. There might be things they're looking at here, like with Fortnite and Apex and stuff. It's obviously easier to just make a new map, balance the weapons every now and then, add new characters. Even looking at Overwatch, just adding new maps, adding new characters, balance things here and there. And obviously with Overwatch 2, they've been like, hey, we need to basically tear down everything we built and start fresh, because like they've remodeled some characters, their play styles. There's no more stun locking anymore. Shields are less of a factor. It's more about healing and taking outright damage. It's they've even retooled pre-existing characters. It feels like a whole new experience instead of just like, oh, it's more of the same and extra maps and stuff like that.
See, that's what I miss about like older shooters, like going back to Team Fortress Classic, and just like the customization of everything, because the content on PC and having not even crazy mods, just like community-based maps will just go like surface.
Oh my gosh.
That basically explains the playability of a game, period. Like, you can spend hours. And of course, one of my favorite series, we can go into Left 4 Dead, of course, but just the maps that people would come up with that would be better than Valve produced maps and have like different functionalities that weren't even existing into the game yet. And it's just like, how is this even possible? But it was. But it also got you to play the game even more. So like having that option to mod a game too, I feel like kind of helps. But that's more so for PC. So I know console, they have limited capabilities for modding. It's possible, but it's not as easy and accessible as it is when it comes to PC games. But the whole model for like, there's DLC now that you have to pay for. We have season passes. That's so tired. It's ridiculous.
It's horrible, yeah.
It's very annoying because you know that this content can exist and thrive if that model didn't, it wasn't popularized by other games and titles. But I mean, it's cool if it's a game at base level that plays well and I actually enjoy the gameplay of it. Yeah, I'll get DLC just to see what it's about, so I won't like fully complain and be like, I'm not getting DLC at all. Like, I played the game once, that was it for me. Like, I'm not gonna be that stubborn, but I just wish it was like that again. And I also need Valve to just release another freaking shooter already.
Please.
For real. Instead of Gabe showing up to people's houses delivering Steam Decks. I mean, that's cute and all, but it's great. I would like a game.
I would love a game. Portal 3, Half-Life 3, Left 4 Dead 3.
Anything. Something.
Something entirely new, that's fine.
Ideally multiplayer, so anything.
Yeah, a new Team Fortress maybe.
That would be great.
Here's another thing. Oh gosh, I think I lost my train of thought on that. We were talking about Valve. Yeah, I was thinking about Gary's mod and how that was such a big thing for Half-Life 2, and how that just put the entire world of just the Source engine into gamers and modders' hands to create anything. I've seen people create racing games,
Kit is powerful.
horror games.
The fact that it's still living, it's still going, is crazy.
And it's still going after all these years. I mean, it's been like over 20 years.
It's a solid development kit, yeah. People
Ridiculous.
still use it to make like little sandbox games and everything. So they have the tools, but they're just like, we're gonna focus on hardware now. Okay, whatever.
So another example is Halo Infinite and how they're doing. They have single player campaign, which they plan to add story content over time because this is a live service game now. And then they have multiplayer content. They have seasonal content, battle passes, outfits to unlock, extra gear to customize your character, events that will roll through, different game modes coming in, new maps, and eventually, I believe 3 months from the start of Season 2 is the plan for when they drop co-op in the campaign, which,
Nice.
we can say should have been there at launch, but here we are in the live service world, in the post-pandemic or still pandemic, whatever you want to say. And then we have Forge mode that I think is supposed to be 6 months into Season 2, or maybe it launches at the beginning of Season 3. And the first season went from launch until just recently. They literally just in May dropped Season 2. So that was a very long season to get the Battle Pass done, and a lot of players thought that the game sort of stagnated as a result. So I guess with Forge mode coming, that's the Gary's mod of Halo.
Oh, yeah.
And that can bring a whole new life to the game. Even if player counts got ridiculously low, I feel like Forge could just really bring back.
Yeah. I mean, it's a solid game, so, like, as long as you have that, and if you bring in something new and interesting, people are going to go look at it regardless.
And they have the groundwork.
And say, oh my god, you took so long, but you're still going to go play it.
No, you're still going to play it, because, I mean, they've laid the groundwork of what makes Halo great. They've modernized it on this one, and they've somehow gotten it right. They really have with this one. But the only problem is that I think people just wanted more maps. They wanted more modes. They felt like the game was lacking at launch. They were like, well, what happened to Big Team Battle, or what happened to, Team Slayer? Like, why are things limited event things as opposed to always having this mode and being able to choose that mode and not be stuck playing capture the flag every other match when all you really want to do.
Out, people. It's a development tactic.
Yeah.
You put out different things and kind of seed people to see what the crowd likes. If they're not messing with the game mode, why would they spend their time developing that any further?
Where's Griff Ball? Where's Firefight? Their notorious co-op mode.
Yeah.
They were actually complaining about, okay, why are you adding new Firefight functionality to Master Chief Collection? Why are you adding new content there? New armor, new modes and stuff like that when you got Halo Infinite over here? And like, I would kill to play Firefight in Halo Infinite's engine.
Yeah.
Or get some of the classic Halo 3 maps put in Infinite. Oh my gosh. I know it's not a flipping a switch type thing, but, bringing back those classic maps that people had, those just timeless brawls that we had back in the day in those maps.
I think that would be a great idea, honestly.
Yeah.
They're just testing the waters with, like, all the rest of the competition and seeing what other developers and companies
I think
doing.
Of all the games, they've emerged quite well, because I feel like Call of Duty, I don't know if they had the greatest launch. Battlefield obviously flopped.
No.
They tripped and fell. And Halo is having a slow launch, but like at least it's good.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah, it's got a solid foundation to build on, which not every live service game starts with.
Yep.
And they are not adept at live service games. They've never done this before. So
True.
Cheers to them for pulling it off somewhat, or at least, getting a good start here.
Absolutely.
Because it still feels like Avengers still doesn't quite know what they want to do. They've now said that they don't want to do roadmaps.
Really?
Because I understand part of it is like just getting Marvel's approval and just having so many delays or broken promises here and there. But then it almost takes away all accountability. So they've said what we're going to do now is like we'll do a blog post of like what's coming out next month, and then they've obviously said Jane Foster is coming soon, her version of Thor, and they've just said like it's coming soon. Like we're not going to tell you when, but like by this patch update she's going to be here, and that keeps them kind of free.
Drop it with the movie or?
That's what I was hoping, is that maybe they'll start timing things properly. Because they dropped Spider-Man with No Way Home, but they didn't have No Way Home skins ready. They didn't have Spider-Man MCU outfits ready to go. So they had the character in game, but they also kind of flopped the implementation. There was no story content to play. There were no Spider-Man villains to fight. So you got Spider-Man, and he was a part of the team, but like they kind of loosely weaved him in because they were like, well, he's not on Xbox, he's not on PC, so we can't make him too important if he's not in the actual canon game.
Huh.
Very weird.
Yeah, I mean, trying to coalesce the roadmap between movie and game, that would be kind of tough. The game's existing, so they do know what the roadmap is, but it's kind of like, how do we match this and make sure that's what people want? But it's kind of like, clearly people are still playing the game, just give them something.
It's like Moon Knight just came out, Doctor Strange just came out, so it's like the fact that they couldn't time something, even a nameplate or a character skin, or maybe Moon Knight just hangs out in the helicarrier for a couple of weeks, like, you know, the bar is pretty low at this point. You could really do almost anything, and people would be like, wow.
Yeah, it would garner some excitement from people, at least, to be like, okay, yeah, they still care about us.
And maybe in the future, you know, you gauge the excitement of like, okay, Moon Knight was in the helicarrier. Everybody really enjoyed talking to him. What if we introduce him as a character later on down the line? When we actually have the development time, because that's the other thing. They have to have enough time. Obviously, if they had enough time to make Doctor Strange, he would have been in the game, and they would have dropped him right now.
Doctor Strange in that game? That's gonna take some time.
Yeah, I think so, and that's my most that's my most exciting character I would want to see.
Yeah.
Because I know it would just flip the game on its head.
Oh, absolutely.
I want absolute chaos of AoE attacks and teleportation and maybe some AoE healing, you know, just like...
That would be amazing.
Magical projectiles.
So many more things to fight outside of robots.
That's true. We did fight robots for like a whole year before they added anything different.
Yeah.
Aimbots, yeah.
Do they have the license to all of Marvel, or is it just...
I mean, it's a partnership with Marvel, so it's like, yeah, they do have carte blanche, but everything does have to be approved from Marvel higher-ups before.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know how methodical they are about the MCU and about everything going on in the comic books, anything going on in gaming. You know, even mobile games are dropping new characters and content for Marvel properties along with the movies, and they're doing a damn good job of it.
They're doing a really good job. It's actually kind of ridiculous. The minute Doctor Strange drops, oh, get this new skin on Marvel Strike Force. Oh, what?
Yeah, Strike Force is dope, dude.
People love it. People are loving that game. I'm like, oh, it looks cool.
So,
I'll probably get it eventually.
I guess with all this talk, where do we land on game reviews? What are some of our final thoughts? And do you have any... Because I'm considering implementing this into the channel. I've wanted to do game reviews. People have asked me to do game reviews. And I've said, I just don't like the system of it. And I don't want to be like everyone else. I don't want to do it this way that I cringe and I get angry when I read reviews. Because I disagree. So, absolutely, with the entire process, the way things are done. And I'm not going to sit here and do, like, rage reviews or...
Oh, God, please don't.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to do, like, cringe content. I want to be really honest with people. And when I worked at GameStop and someone came in, whether it was, like, a mom trying to find something for little kids or it was, like, a dad who's, you know, stepfather to someone he, like, doesn't really know his kids that well but, like, kind of needs the guide of someone, or just, you know, someone that's looking to expand their game vocabulary. They come in looking for Call of Duty. They walk out with, you know, some sort of completely different genre, but they come back and they're like, dude, you recommended that game and it changed my whole perspective. Now I play RPGs. Like,
yeah. So
I want to approach game reviews in a way like that, where I feel like I'm helping people. I'm not trashing games. I'm not praising games that are trash either. On the other end of the spectrum, I don't want to be like... And I don't want to be promoting things sheerly out of money or because I got a paid promotion of this, or, you know, because obviously those opportunities have come and gone, and more will arrive in the future. Obviously, the more content I create, the more companies will want to reach out with review copies, and I want to be objective about the way that I do reviews. So where do we land at the end of the day, and what advice do you have?
I feel like you actually take your time when it comes to playing the game and experiencing it, so you're not going to have a problem when it comes to compiling the actual data and the content that goes into your review. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of the formula and how you deliver it, because you're already eliminating scoring. So it's kind of like people's brains automatically always go to like a grading system of some sort. But if you become a trusted source, and we're relying more so on your experience, and you're basically like a raw review of how you felt the game was, and maybe like, and if you should buy it. I don't even know if you want to like do that, because that kind of quantifies it too. But
it does.
Just giving your as least biased as possible, but I'm not trying to sway people or put the game down in general. I feel like with the content that is on your YouTube, that'll just shine through. So I don't think you do need the gimmick or the random rage reviews or anything else to just get people onto the video, because once they see it's a review, they're gonna know it's coming from a genuine place. So the only thing I'm thinking of is like, does he need a metric? I don't think you do. But because if you're taking people through the experience of the game itself, be it the story, the play modes, and things like that, you're kind of providing them with the details that they want, and that other reviewers don't provide them usually.
So here's the other question. Does it need to be... does the review need to be immediately at launch? Do I need to be trying to get this out like pronto? And does it need to be a focused video? Like, this is the review. It's a 10-minute long or 30-minute long video or whatever it is.
Focused, yes. Immediately, I don't think you'd be comfortable doing immediate reviews.
I think you're right. Oh, LadiiGi knows.
You wouldn't believe you. You'd be like, I can't post this. I haven't played Blah yet. No. Immediate, no.
Okay.
Timely, yes. So obviously, if a game drops May 1st, you're not going to drop the review on May 31st, because ideally, because you will get the review copy earlier. Hello, devs.
Yeah.
Than the actual launch date, so you'll have time to play the game thoroughly and focus on it, and be able to provide details.
So in-depth.
Rather than worrying about like, oh my god, it's May, it's whatever, April 30th.
I don't want to be rushed by deadlines.
No. That's not going to be comfortable, and it's not going to be as genuine as you actually taking your time doing a playthrough and saying, here's what I didn't like, here's what you may like, and offering up information rather than just, the game has great graphics, but they fell short here. 5 out of 10. Like, really? You didn't tell me anything.
I think that's the biggest thing with you, Like, for whatever you play, whatever you review, whatever you talk about on your podcast, you are really good at giving a pro and con view for everyone. You're the type that does, well, this is not my cup of tea, but if you like a game that does this, that, and the other, or I like this, that, and the other, but you might not like that in this game. You're that type of person, type of reviewer. So I think you would not have to do a metric system at all because of your pro and con nature.
Pro and con, okay.
Like, I'm just saying, man, you're really good at giving the positive with the negative, and vice versa for some people who just like negative stuff. But yeah, like G said, I couldn't see you just pushing something out just because it was right then and there. I feel like you of all people enjoy taking your time with video games. So, I mean, you know me, I'm gonna watch regardless. I don't care.
I like what you said about not my cup of tea, but, because I feel like most reviewers don't sort of go into that. They don't ever say like, oh, this game's not my cup of tea, but if you enjoy blah, 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 and go through pros and cons of this and that, then it's like, wow, you might enjoy this game. Because there have been games where I've only done one episode on a playthrough because I was like, you know what, it was pretty cool, but like, I don't have time to spend 60 hours on this. and to make a whole video series on it. Or maybe I like really enjoyed it, but I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. Or, you know, there's a lot of factors that could go into it, and it's not necessarily this game rocks or this game sucks. And I'm obviously still playing Avengers for some sort of reason, even if it's unexplanatory. And some people will be like, "Hey, does this game suck?" Like, you know, they'll just come in the chat and be like, "Hey, is this game good? Like, did they fix this yet?" And I'm so like I'm still engaged somehow there, and so I don't know.
This man is so good at Avengers that he made Captain America fly.
Yeah, I made him fly. Good. Yeah, they just A-pose and fly around now. The bugs are immense after this latest update that they did.
Oh, wow.
So any character that's not a flying character can now fly. Like, and it's some sort of bug that, like, I think I figured out that's if you die while doing the Mega Hive as that character, it makes them fly. So I don't know why the devs are not
because this is very in-depth information that you're not going to get from anybody else.
Yeah. And so Cap can fly, Hawkeye can fly. There's videos online, and most of my streams for the past several weeks have been Captain America A-posing and flying around like Iron Man. Yeah.
It's fantastic to watch. It is fantastic.
It kind of works. I'm like, this is how they could do Sam Wilson in the game. I'm like, look, I'm flying around and I'm throwing the shield. You can have Black Captain America. Come on.
It's too soon, Aaron. It's too soon.
Oh, you're right. It's too soon. Yeah, that's right.
Meanwhile, they're listening. They're like, oh my god, he broke it. He found what we're doing.
Yeah, the bugs are showcasing something that could be done. But yeah. All right, any last thoughts? Opinions? Insults?
I'd say go for it.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Let's give it a try. Well, timing-wise, what's your ideal review? Like length.
Oh, length.
Yeah.
Gosh, you would want it to be pretty succinct. Like maybe I'm thinking in that 10 to 15 mark where it's like a video that like if it was shorter than 10 minutes, it's not enough information. If it's longer than 15, if it goes to like 20 or 30 minutes or more, then it starts to feel like you're dragging it out. Or there's maybe just so much information that you feel you have to share, but how many people are going to watch beyond that point?
Yeah, true.
10 to 15 minutes is such an ideal target time for just almost anything on YouTube, unless you're doing shorts or long-term playthroughs. Like 10 to 15 is a sweet spot for like, oh, I'm on my lunch break, I can watch this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And people will watch 5-10 minute videos, but they won't watch an hour-long video.
Of course they won't.
See? So there's a target there.
Brain don't brain anymore, man. People don't know how to brain anymore.
And I think with Elden Ring, I did like I don't remember what the video was titled, but it was almost a review because it was like we talked about the accessibility issues of the game. I talked about like just kind of like how to get started, you know, just like trying to ease people into the game. So it was kind of fell in that release schedule where it was like, okay, I'd probably played 50 hours or more, so I felt pretty knowledgeable in a way that I could at least coach the beginners of what mistakes I made and things I learned about the game, and shared that to make it more accessible for people. I wanted to help people in a way, because otherwise the game can be a little overwhelming, especially with all these first-time people. They sold over 12 million copies. It's their best-selling game that FromSoft has ever done, and that's a massive number for such a niche genre. Yeah. So we have a lot of newbies in there, a lot of Breath of the Wild gamers, a lot of people that are like, oh, I like fantasy games, but like, I've never played a game where you just die a lot, where you just lose for hours on end, and then keep going.
I feel like that could be one of your points of consistency too, that sets you apart from others. Essentially, like telling people, obviously no spoilers or backseating, but you know, there's something that you may run into the game that may skew your experience. So here's a tip: You can also make this, repurpose this into a short, of course.
I
And
love
then basically give people that tool to give the game a fair shake rather than just writing it off when they run into like a bug or some kind of glitch.
Yeah. Because you could easily write off Avengers right now if your Captain America started A-posing, flying around, and just be like, Wakanda's dope, but
You might like it, I don't know.
but like Hawkeye is doing cartwheels in the air. Like I don't know what he's doing.
That is crazy.
Dude's got no powers, but he's flying
He
like
has
he's
evolved.
Thor. Yeah. All right. Any last things, Kong, on your end?
No, man.
We hit the nail on the head with this, I think. I'm really satisfied with the discussion we've had today.
Oh, for sure. This was great.
We've had a lot to take home and a lot to study here and a lot of information that I can use for myself. And of course, gamers, if you have any thoughts, leave your comments, questions, desires in the comments section down below. Thank you for listening on our podcast networks, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, check the description for links to the Verbal Vibe podcast. And
we're doing everything in Verbal Vibe now.
That's it for us, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
See ya.
I love y'all.
Bye.